This is Kasturi Day. Today I'm going to continue with the discussion of this pollination and fertilization chapter according to ICSE syllabus class 9. So before I start, I will request you to please to subscribe my channel and stay with me. And if you are liking the videos, press the like button, share with your friends so that they can also be benefited from these videos. And don't forget to meditate before you start your day. Okay, so for meditation, we will start for meditation for just 1 minute. Let us concentrate on the point of light. Okay, so starting with the meditation. So please concentrate on the point of light. The power of energy is coming. So in my last video, this discussion about the characteristics of the different types of flowers, pollinated flowers, that the agents which pollinate the flowers. So the different characteristics of those agent pollinated flowers are being discussed in my last videos where I stopped. So I'll continue with that. Characteristics of Anemophilous flowers, that is wind pollinated flowers, the characteristic features of the wind pollinated flowers. So first one is the flowers are small. The wind pollinated flowers, these are flowers are small, but they have large production of pollen grains. Okay, because they produce large amount of pollen grains and their anthers are exposed as the stamens are long and they hang out of the flower. So the stamens, the wind pollinated flowers, they have long stamens which hang out from the flower, and so the anthers are exposed to the wind. Okay, the anthers are large and they are loosely attached to the filament so that with the slightest wind, they can move them. They are moved. Okay, so they are known as versatile anthers. Okay, flowers are not attractive or brightly colored. Rather, they are often dull green. They need not be attractive because they are not attracting any animals or insects or birds. Okay, but they are being uh, pollinated by the abiotic agents like the wind. Okay? And that's why they are generally dull green. Okay? Feathers are sticky, they are feathery, sticky, and hang out stigma. Okay. So the stigma is also there, that is feathery, sticky, and hanging out. Okay, so that they can receive the anthers very easily. Okay, the pollen grains are light, dry, or non-sticky and smooth so that they can easily be transported in the wind currents. Okay, and the flowers do not produce scent or nectar. They do not produce the scent or nectar because again they are not attracting any animals. Extends, this is the Anemophilous flower being exposed to the wind. So examples are poplar, beech, alder, oak, chestnut, willow, and elm trees. Then wheat, maize, oats, rice, and nettle are the examples of Anemophilous plants because their pollen is transported by the wind. Next is the characteristics of the hydrophilous flower. Hydrophilous flowers means those flowers which are pollinated by water. Water is a abiotic agent. Now, these when water pollinated flowers, they produce large, here also they produce large number of pollen grains, as most of them they get lost by the flow of water. So they need to be, there is a need to produce large number of pollen grains. The stigmas here also are large, but here they are large and feathery. But in the wind pollinated flowers, the stigma was feathery and they were hanging out. Here they are large and feathery to catch the pollens. In some plants, the pollen grains have a specific gravity almost equal to that of the water, so they remain floating below the surface of the water. The male flowers, after maturation, get detached from the plant and float above the water surface. The male flowers, they after maturation, they get detached from the plant and they float above the water surface. The stalks of the pollinated flowers are usually very long to project the stigmas above the water surface. The male flowers, they after maturation float above the water surface. In the stigmas, they are also very long to project themselves above the water surface. Okay. Then no animal transporters are needed for the pollination. Okay. The flowers, they need not be attractive or colorful, rather they are white in color. Because they do not need any biotic agent to pollinate the flower. So the hydrophilous flower example, that's Vallisneria. Vallisneria, Hydrilla, Josteria, these are the hydrophily flowers. Then some examples of pollination. For example, say insect pollinated sweet pea. What adaptations the sweet pea make to adapt themselves for pollination by the insect? Please we will see here. So first is the bee. Bee is an agent of pollination in the sweet pea. So it's an insect pollinated flower. What type of insect is needed here? It is a bee. These flowers are colorful and contain nectar. These insect, as their insect pollinated flower, so these flowers, they are colorful and contain nectar to attract the insects. It lands on the petal. The insect, the bee, they land on the petal, insert their proboscis in the flower for the nectar, making their wing petal and the keel petal to push down. Okay, the sweet pea, it has a wing petal and a keel petal. When this bee lands on the petals, they insert the proboscis. So what happens? To take out the nectar, for nectar making, the wing petal and the keel petal they will push down, and in this process, the pollen grains, when this wing petal and the keel petal pushes down, the anthers, the pollen grains from the anther, they stick to the proboscis of the bee. Okay. Now, the body of the bee generally has the pollen grains of another flower. The anthers, they stick to the proboscis of the bee, but the body already has the pollen grains of another flower. When they come to take the nectar, what happens? The body brushes over the stigma, comes in contact with the stigma, brushes over the stigma, and thereby drops all the pollen grains which are on its body. The bee also carries some pollen of this flower sticked on its body to another flower. Some pollen grains are already stuck when it is taking this nectar from this flower, from the second flower. So that time its proboscis is, it's carrying, the proboscis is carrying this one, pollen grains. Okay. Now, when this bee moves to another flower, then it will carry the pollen grains of the second flower to the third flower. There is also a chance of self-pollination in the sweet pea as the flower is bisexual and both the organs lie on the same note. Self-pollination is also possible in case of sweet pea. So cross-pollination as well as self-pollination is possible. Why self-pollination is possible? Because it's a bisexual flower and both the organs, that is androecium and gynoecium, both of them lie on the same note. Here. So mainly it's an insect pollinated flower. Okay, and it's the insect pollinated flowers characteristics are also there. That is, it produces nectar. It's color, full and attractive. And when it this insect, the bee, when it sits on the petals, the wing petal and the keel petal pushes down. It inserts its proboscis in the flower, thereby takes some anthers from this flower on the proboscis and donates from its body some of the pollen grains into the stigma of this flower, okay, thereby pollinating the flowers. You see, this is the picture how the when the bee comes and takes a nectar and how they are pollinated. Okay, so this is the fertile anther lobe, this is the stigma, and this is the sterile anther lobe. This is the portion of the fertile anther lobe after the insect strikes the sterile lobe. Insect hits the sterile anther lobe as it enters the flower. As it is entering the flower, it will hit the sterile lobe, and this one, the fertile lobe, will come and fall on the seed. Okay. So this is the stigma, and the fertile anther lobe striking the insect. The pollen being transferred from back of the insect to the stigma. The nectar is here. So next is wind pollinated maize. Maize flower that is being pollinated by wind. Now, in maize flower, the anthers are loosely connected to the filaments and can be moved by the slightest blow of the wind, make the pollen blow away easily. So the maize flower, the anthers are loosely connected. Like the Anemophilous flowers, there what happens? They are the anthers are loosely connected to the filaments so that they can, with the slightest blow of the wind, it will flow away. Then these pollen grains can easily land with the feathery stigma coming out of the petals of another female flower as it has a large surface. Self-pollination is not possible as the male flowers mature earlier than the female flowers. Yes, self-pollination is not possible. Only cross-pollination occurs in the case of maize. Next is this is the maize flower. Excuse me. This is the pollen grains which are being, they are with the slightest wind, they will move away, fly in the wind, carried away by the wind. Okay, so this is the stigma here. So this is the wind, how they are carried from the anthers to the stigma. So this is only possible by wind, and this is only cross-pollination is possible. Now we come to fertilization. So what is fertilization? Fertilization is the union or the fusion of the nuclei of male and the female gametes to produce a zygote. In the flowering plants, pollen grains produces two male gametes and the ovule inside the ovary produces the female gamete. Okay. So in flowering plants, we see there is two male gametes and one female gamete. Okay. In bisexual flowers, there will be two male gametes and one female gamete in the same flower. And if it is a different flower, then also the female flower will have only one female gamete and the male flower will have the anthers will produce two male gametes. Okay. The pollen grains, not anthers, the pollen grains will produce two male gametes. Now, see, this is the picture of the stigma, fertilization, how it is occurring. See, the pollen grain, after falling on the stigma, it will start germinating and will produce a pollen tube. all maximum, so all of the pollen grains will start germinating. Only one will reach the ovary. So this is the pollen tube where the pollen grain, where the grain will germinate. Pollen grain will germinate. Okay, and it will produce the two male gametes, and it will reach the ovary where it will combine with the egg cell and with the other cell for where they will take place. There will be fusion, and what will form? A zygote will be formed, which will later convert into seed. An ovule will be formed in the seed, and ovary will be transformed into fruit. So let us see how this happens. So first we come to pollen grain. The pollen grains of a flower are small structures that contain two male gametes. Contains two male gametes. The mature floral grain is a cell with a double wall. The outer is exine and the inner is intine. So you can see from the picture the dark colored, the thick dark colored layer, that is the outer layer, which is known as exine, and the intine is the inner thinner layer. Okay, that is the intine. Okay, its interior region comprises cytoplasm as well as the tube cell. So the interior region, there is the cytoplasm and the tube cells are there, which transforms into a pollen tube. Tube cells are there, which will transform into pollen tube, and the generative cell, which releases the sperm nuclei. Okay, this is the generative cell, and that will release the sperm nuclei. Okay. Now, the matured pollen grain consists of the pollen tube nucleus and the generative, that is the male nucleus. When a mature pollen grain is there, there will be what? There will be pollen tube nucleus and the generative male nucleus. This is the vegetative nucleus of pollen nucleus and the generative nucleus. Okay, that is the male nucleus. Only the two cells into which the nucleus has divided. Okay. Now, at this time, the pollen is transferred to the stigma. This is the stage where the pollen gets transferred to the stigma. This is the matured pollen grain. This will get transferred to the stigma, where after falling on the stigma, it will start germinating. The further changes in the pollen grain occurs only if it falls on the stigma of the plant or the cells. If it does not fall on the stigma, if it does not fall on the stigma, then it will not germinate. Now we come to the ovule. Now, the ovule is a flowering plant organ, which is the inner part of the ovary which produces the seed. Okay. So the ovule is what? It's a flowering plant organ, which is the inner part. Okay. Inner part of the ovary, and it will produce the seeds. It comprises, what does it comprise of? A nucellus, that is the mass of food-laden cells. It will comprise of a nucellus that is protected by a seed coat, known as integument. That is known seed coat, which is known as integument. Then comes what? The embryo or endosperm precursors and the seed coat. So integuments are there, embryo, endosperm precursors, and the seed coat is there. The nucellus has an embryo sac. Nucellus has an embryo sac. Inside the nucellus, there is an embryo sac that is made up of functioning megaspore. Okay. Now, the megaspore contains what? The nuclei. Okay. Now, what are those nuclei? I will discuss one by one. Okay. So, the cells and nuclei are there inside that. The ovule is linked to the placenta by the funicle. The ovule is attached to the placenta by the funicle, which is a stalk of the ovule that is known as funicle or funiculus. The integuments leave an opening at the top of the ovule. The integuments, there are these integuments are there, no? These stay there. There is a stalk at the top. There is a top portion of the ovule. There is a opening that is known as micropyle. The embryo sac has 7 cells. This embryo sac, inside the nucellus there is an embryo sac, and inside the embryo sac there are 7 cells. 3 plus 3 and 5. Now 3 cells at the micropylar end are towards the micropyle. There is 1 egg cell and 2 synergids. Okay. Opposite to this are also 3 cells. Okay. These cells are known as antipodal cells. And one large central cell is there, which has 2 nuclei. Okay. Central cell is there that has 2 nuclei which are fused together. Polar nuclei, these two are fused together. Okay. So there are 7 cells. 3 towards the micropyle, 3 towards the opposite of the micropyle, and in between the center there is 1 cell which contains 2 nuclei, polar nuclei. So this is the picture of the ovule. You can see this is the stigma, this is the style, and this is the ovary. Okay. So this ovary contains the nucellus. Okay. Then the 2 polar, the egg cell and the 2 synergids, and these are the antipodal nuclei, antipodal cells. Then that is enclosed by the nucellus, that is the food containing cell. And in between, in the central part, there is a cell which contains 2 polar nuclei. There is 2 polar nuclei, and the egg cell combining forms the female gamete. Okay, and this nucellus is covered by the integument. Okay, and the integuments, they leave a place in between, which is known as the micropyle. This is another picture of the system. Ovule. Okay. Now, how does the pollen grain germinate? Once the pollen grains are deposited on the stigma, it starts germinating. How? By absorbing the secretions of the sugar and water from the stigma. So when the pollen grain falls on the stigma, the stigma, they secrete some sugar and water. That is absorbed by the pollen grain and it starts germinating. Now, a pollen tube is produced. A small pollen tube is produced to a point in the exine which passes through the style to the ovary. So, from one point in the exine, the pollen tube starts germinating, which passes through the style to the ovary. The tube cell moves out of the pollen grain through one of the germ pores, forming a pollen tube. The tube cell comes out from the pollen grain, one of the germ pores of the pollen grain, and it starts forming a pollen tube. The nucleus of the tube moves down to the tip of the pollen tube. Now, then the generative cells also pass into it. The tube cell first comes out, forming the pollen tube. Then the nucleus also starts moving towards the tip of the pollen tube. The generative cell also passes into the pollen tube, and it soon divides into 2 male gametes. Okay, so there are 3 nuclei in the germinating pollen. Okay, and are not separated by cell walls, thus sharing a common cytoplasm. 1 nuclei is there of the tube cell, and the the generative cell also forms 2 nuclei. So all the 3 nuclei are present in the pollen tube, germinating pollen tube. But they do not have a cellular boundary. They they share the common cell wall. That is they are not separated by cell walls, so they have the same cytoplasm, share the same cytoplasm. The pollen tube grows through the stigma and the style by dissolving the tissues with the help of the enzymes, thereby reaching the ovary. So the pollen tube grows through the stigma, then comes to the style, and then they dissolve the tissues and grow with the help of the enzymes, and they reach the ovary. By pushing the micropyle, the pollen tube reaches the embryo sac. Here, the tube nucleus starts degenerating. It disintegrates. The tube nucleus here disintegrates because its function is lost now. because it reaches the micropyle, and now the germinating cell, the germinating nuclei, okay, these the male gametes now will start functioning. Nucleus is disintegrated now. Next, pollen tube then enters into the synagogues, enters one of the synagogues, releasing its sperm nuclei. One of the sperm nuclei fuses with the egg cell nucleus, forming the zygote. The other sperm nucleus then moves to the polar nuclei in the central cell, fusing with them. Therefore, there will be triple fusion and double fertilization. This is the picture of the matured pollen grain. Okay? So, this is the tube cell and this is the genital. Now, the tube nucleus, this is the genital. This is the end. Now, from one of these spores, okay, the tube nucleus starts moving down. Tube cell starts moving down with the tube nucleus and the genital nucleus. It starts coming down from the stigma. It starts germinating. It will absorb the sugar and water which is present on the stigma, and it starts germinating. Now it starts forming the pollen tube. Now it, while coming down through the style, it will start dissolving the cells with the help of the enzymes, and it will grow through the style, go through the style, and start moving towards the ovary, pushing the micropyle. It will enter the ovule. Okay. Now, when it enters the ovule, the tube nucleus disintegrates. What remains is the male gametes. The sperm nuclei, one of the sperm nuclei that will enter the this one the it will enter the both the sperm nuclei will enter the synagogues, and it will, one of them will combine with the egg cell, fuse with the egg cell. Another male sperm nuclei will combine with the this one the polar nuclei. The two polar nuclei there, it will combine with that. So there will be a triple fusion, two polar nuclei and one male nuclei. So three nuclei are there, fusion will be there. So there will be triple fusion and also double fertilization, because one cell, one nuclei, one sperm nuclei will combine with the egg cell. There will be one fertilization. Another fertilization will be there. One male nuclei will combine with the two polar nuclei of the female gamete. That is of the female gamete. So there will be double fertilization, triple fusion and double fertilization. Clear now? Next. So the fate of the floral parts after fertilization. What happens to the other floral parts after the fertilization is formed, when the zygote will be formed after fertilization? So fate will be the fruit. So fate will be the fruit, which will consist of the fruit ball. It will protect the seed. The seed will be dispersed. It will help. It will. The seed will be dispersed. The seed will contain the embryo. The embryo will get the food from the food store, and also it will be protected by the seed coat. So this is the fruit that is formed. So while forming the fruit, the other floral parts, what will happen? The stamens, the style, the petals, the stigma, they will all wither and fall off. They will shrink, they will wither, and they will fall off. The calyx may remain intact in a dry or shriveled state, or it may fall off. The ovary will be transformed into the fruit by enlarging, and it will be getting covered by the fruit wall. Okay? formed due to the transformation of the ovary wall. The ovary wall will be transformed into the fruit wall, and the ovary will be transformed into the fruit. The fruit wall can be fleshy, dry, or hard, and the ovules will be transformed into the seed, which will contain the embryo, which will get the food from the seed, the seed which is present from the seed itself, which will contain the food storage from the store of the food, and the embryo will be covered with the seed pod, and the seed will help in this process. So this is the end of the chapter. And in my next video, I will discuss the ICSE pattern questions of this chapter, specimen questions of this chapter. And after that, I will start with the some practice questions of this chapter. Okay. So till then, please do get a revision of this, give a revision of this chapter, of this all the all the videos which I have presented for you. So please go through them. If you have any doubt, please write in the comment box. Do share with your friends so that they can also be benefited from these videos. And if you like the videos, press the like button, share with your friends so that they can also be benefited from these videos. Okay, and if you have not subscribed yet, please to subscribe and don't forget to meditate before you start. And ring the notification bell because that will notify you as soon as a new video is uploaded. So happy puja and do enjoy your puja but in a safe way. Okay. So thank you for joining and have a good day.